Doctor Who Season 2 is halfway through and I loved the latest episode, Lucky Day, for one major reason. The Doctor did not cry. And I never thought I would say I don't like the Doctor crying, because it did used to be a major moment in an episode and in a series, but recently it has just become too much. Let's talk about it. I love the 15th Doctor and I am so glad that he is so in touch with his emotions. I think it's a really great character development from the previous Doctors that we've seen, and I love how he feels free that he can express those emotions. But there is just one side of the character that I do feel like is missing from the 15th Doctor that appears in every other incarnation of the Doctor all the way back to William Hartnell. And that is the more brutal, blunt, alien side of the character. The moments that make the Doctor more harsh. The moments like in David Tennant's The Time Lord Victorious moment, or when a classic Doctor would lash out at any moment. And I don't feel like we've seen 15 do this at any point. We've been close, don't get me wrong. There was that time when he was screaming out to Sutek in the TARDIS, or there was that time in Dot and Bubble with his outburst, and we almost had it in this latest episode, Lucky Day, when he confronts Conrad about how he's been treating Ruby. But throughout all of that speech, I was just expecting him to cry instead, because it's became so common. And I don't feel like we've had enough from this Doctor to earn a big, furious, dark side of the Doctor's speech yet, because he's crying so much. Crying is a good thing, but the Doctor has to show a level of putting on a brave face so that he remains in power. There's reasons why at each point we see the Doctor give a massive speech, like Matt Smith at the Pandorica, or Peter Capaldi's war speech in Unit, where we see the Doctor go through really high emotion through raw anger and hurt and frustration he has at the universe because people don't get along. And it means that when that speech then might actually turn into crying, and when he does actually cry, it's because of an extreme moment when that moment has actually fully broken him. It feels earned. Like when 11 finds out about Trenzalore, or when he loses Amy and Rory, the first face he saw, or when 13 is having to say goodbye to Yaz, her first and last companion, or 10 leaving Rose trapped away in the parallel world. It shows that the Doctor puts on this brave Doctor outlook to the universe so that he can be the one who saves the day and brings hope, and that when his emotions do come out, it's because he's realized he can't save the day and he can't save the people he truly loves. He actually has to accept defeat. The problem with 15 is not that he cries. There can be moments of fear, like when the time when Sutek was revealed, for example, and he cried then. That I could see as a valid moment for when he should cry, because the entire universe had completely disappeared. But he does it so much now, even when the stakes aren't even that high. And when it just becomes constant, it means I'm less believing the moments when he actually would want to cry. And I'm less believing that the Doctor is the one in the room who brings hope and authority and power, but instead it just feels he's now like everyone else, which he is not meant to be. And it's not because I think men shouldn't cry or some sort of toxic masculinity or anything like that, because like you say, we've seen the Doctor cry in previous incarnations when he was a male, and when the Doctor was a woman, she still only cried when it was very necessary. I mean, 15 has cried in pretty much every single episode. He didn't cry in The Giggle because he just bi-generated, but in his first proper episode in The Church of Ruby Road, he does cry. But in fairness, the lines were about crying and about Ruby's mum crying, so I will let that one off. In Space Babies, he cries when he realises that the bogeyman is the last of his kind and is going to die. Then in The Devil's Cord, he cries because he's met another Pantheon, to the point where our newest companion, who is terrified, has to be the one who comforts him. In Boom, he cries, which I guess is because he is about to blow up him and Ruby because he's on the landmine if he moves, so I guess that's a good enough reason to cry. He's not really in 73 yards enough to matter. In Dot and Bubble, when he's just done a huge outrage toward the people, and then it's all kind of undone because he then stares at them and cries, sort of showing that he's been defeated and is slightly weak by them, and sort of justifying their point almost, which I think undermines his entire frustration in the first place. In Rogue, Ruby is literally about to die by accident, and instead of the Doctor thinking of a way to quickly save her, which is what every other incarnation would do, he instead instantly accepts defeat that he's lost Ruby and just starts crying, and instead turns to his brand new lover who he's just met in that episode. Like, what? Why is he crying? Why isn't he going out and finding a way to save Ruby? Then we move on to season 2, in Joy to the World, when he is saying goodbye to Anita, who I suppose he's spent a full year with, but he didn't even cry when he was saying goodbye to Donna Noble and wiped her entire memory. So come on, why is he crying at this? In the Robot Revolution, when Sasha died, who he had apparently spent 6 months with. In Lux, when he realizes that these imaginary people who watch Doctor Who in this meta world that Lux has created are going to disappear and cease to exist. And so then he starts crying about it. I mean, just look at how awkward and comical this moment is, where you see Belinda looking absolutely fine and the Doctor crying. It's hilarious. In The Well, when he finds out that this entity is actually the Midnight Entity, which in fairness, this one I can understand, because I know this was one of the only times when Ten did cry, and this Midnight Entity knew the Doctor's name, and no one knows the Doctor's name. And so I really do think Ncuti did sell that time when the Doctor cried. But it just feels like crying is now his new catchphrase, and I'm not a big fan of it, because I think crying in Doctor Who is one of the most impactful moments, when a companion does it or when the Doctor does it. Unfortunately, we've had it every episode that it's like Mrs. Flood. I feel like I'm going to see it no matter what, and it's taking away the high stakes from each episode, and the high stakes for when the Doctor should actually cry, like in The Well. I'm really glad that he didn't cry in his confrontation with Conrad, and I really hope that we're going to begin getting to see a more darker side of this Doctor, because I love this Doctor, but I just think it's lacking that darker side. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me or not? Do you enjoy the 15th Doctor crying? I think Ncuti Gat was really good at it, but let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And as always, we've been here on Gated Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.